Good afternoon. This is the JFK Report. Your host, Micaiah Jackson. Fall has started here in the Valley, Maricopa County. I'm back. It's time to get back to work. It's time to put God first. It's time to bring Christian values back in this country and put America first. And as a lot of my followers know, I always start off with reading the Bible. Romans 16, verse 17 through 18. I urge you, brothers and sisters, to watch out for those who cause divisions and put obstacles in your way that are contrary to the teaching you have learned. Keep away from them. For such people are not serving our Lord Christ, but their own appetites. By smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the minds of naive people. Everyone has heard about your obedience, so I rejoice because of you, but I want you to be wise about what is good and innocent about what is evil. I messed up. Romans 16, 17 through 19. I was one verse shy, but let's start off with there and a quick prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for another day of life and opportunity. You have blessed me with a roof over my head, food in my fridge. Our country is suffering, but our country is so great because of you. When we put you first, we can make this country thrive again under one God and to bring peace and harmony in this nation and to love one another. In your name, Christ. So I've been gone for a little bit. I was at a halfway house for 90 days. Wasn't nothing. It was, most of you know why I was there. All this BS J6 stuff. But it is what it is now, you know? So yeah, I'm currently reading Plato, the Republic. Such a great book. Check it out. Read Plato. A lot of wise words and wisdom. You got my Rubik's Cube, and you know, hey, November's right around the corner. Kerry Lake for governor of Arizona, 2022. Got the pen right here, baby. You know what time it is. But what we're getting into today is we're going to discuss the Anti-Federalist and the environment in today's federal government in our society as a nation, and bring somewhat of a Christian perspective into it with bringing Patrick Henry, an honorable American patriot who fought in an American Revolutionary War, was in the Constitutional Convention and refused to sign the Constitution. He was an anti-federalist. So, as Americans today, we appreciate the Constitution, one of the best written documents probably in the nation. But, you know, there was arguments with the Anti-Federalists. Where were the Bill of Rights? They wanted a Bill of Rights. They were afraid of another, not monarchy, but tyrants. You had the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights. You know, that all played into factor with the colonists leading up to the Revolutionary War, seeking independence. You know, they based those natural rights off God to give us liberties. You know, you read about John Locke, you know, a lot of the natural rights. Natural rights were a very key factor of Anti-Federalists to keep the government from having so much power that is going to stomp on your liberties. And that's what the Anti-Federalists were worried about when it came to the Constitutional Convention, because at first, the Federalists, they saw no purpose to having the Bill of Rights. And it's like, oh, we just won American Revolutionary War. We're not going to do this to people. Why would we do this? The Constitution, you know, it's not supposed to have the government take away rights and liberties. But the Anti-Federalists like Patrick Henry are like, no. That's not happening. There's no way a government's just going to say, oh, yeah, here's your rights, when it's not declared on paper and you ratify it and make it the founding culture of the society as we see in the United States of America. You know, I got 6 quotes from Patrick Henry, some of his best quotes. You know, let's go with this first one right there, since we're talking about the concern of liberty, you know, and not having a Bill of Rights. Show me that age and country where the rights and liberties of the people were placed on the sole chance of the rulers being good men, without a consequent loss of liberty. So we're going to write this Constitution, ratify it without a Bill of Rights, and give government the chance of power to take away our liberty. Not a really good way to go. Not a good way to go. Because what we're seeing in this country is our liberties, our Bill of Rights are being violated. What about the First Amendment? January 6th, peaceful protesters who peacefully petitioned the government to redress grievances have been targeted, arrested, convicted, or placed on a domestic terrorist list for peacefully protesting, or the parents going to school board meetings like over there in Virginia, being on terrorist watch list from the FBI. Then what about the Fourth Amendment, when you have the January 6th committee polling cell phone data from anyone who supported January 6th, from politicians like Paul Gosar, who had their cell phone data, including mine, taken by the January 6th committee, by the legislative branch, without a lawful warrant. You need a warrant. It is private information. Regardless of what you want, you need a warrant. There was no signed warrant. There was no warrant sent to my house or presented to me. And the Fourth Amendment could be so much. There's so much going on with the Fourth Amendment, but that's like the biggest thing right there, just relating to J6, or how the FBI is taking cell phone data from American citizens and Google's just giving it to them. If you have like Google, Apple, but Google's a big one, you need a lawful signed authorized warrant to have that. Probable cause for that is not enough. It's private property. You need to sign that. Then you have, what is it? The Sixth and Seventh Amendment. The public trial, the right to lawyers, impartial jury, a right to jury, and the right to know your accusers. These J6 trials, they're bad. Absolutely bad. My main focus is on the Seventh Amendment. So, okay, no, my bad for messing up. I meant the Eighth Amendment. I should know my Bill of Rights. Okay, here we go. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. The right to, bail and everything. So the January 6th people sitting in jail. And then you have people that were part of BLM riots. Just, here you go, you could be released from jail. All charges are dropped. But there's people in DC not getting fair trials, getting turned down to change a venue, no bail, being denied bail, rotting in a gulag in DC for nonviolent misdemeanor charges from parading and picketing and trespassing. That's not the American way. And this is what the Anti-Federalists were warning about, was this power of a centralized federal government doing this. But the purpose of the Bill of Rights was, no matter what it is, you cannot violate there's liberties. You could go into the Second Amendment, how ATF agents are going into places and, hey, we saw that you purchased this firearm. Can we see it? Or you purchased this part for the firearm. Will we see it? You can't do that. Shall not infringe. Violating my Fourth Amendment. Get off my private property. Do not step on my property. The Anti-Federalists were very skeptical with the federal government. But that's why they ratified the Bill of Rights. But we could use the Bill of Rights to take back that power from this ongoing federal regime. It's fascism now. That's what it really is. It's fascism. And now they're trying to push the whole culture, Marxist of communism, with entities within the United States, with these subgroups, like Antifa, BLM, Black Bloc, whatever you want to call them. But the tactics being used and what we're seeing in the government with these corporations and big time private businesses and people working along with the government and trying to target individual liberties, that's fascism when they all collide together. But, going back to, I always read scripture and I'm praying and I, go to church and spread the gospel. So I really want to focus on this show, a lot of the Christian aspects. And one of them I want to start with, I read that verse from Romans is what Patrick Henry said here. I cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians. Not on religion, but the gospel of Jesus Christ. Patrick Henry was a devoted Christian, and he did not want slavery. Did he have slaves? Yes, a few, but he didn't want it. They wanted it abolished. It was a different time, but that's a different topic for another time. But these men knew what was going to happen. They didn't want this. They wanted natural rights, what was naturally right from God. A lot of the founding fathers believed in God, but a lot of them believed in Jesus. The Puritans and the Pilgrims, when they came here, they were Christians. These natural rights are liberties. They come from God. They're natural human rights to keep us in harmony and to keep oppressive regimes like a government from causing harm on his people. We have the duty as the American people to uphold those liberties and natural rights and to keep a government in check and to prevent a tyrannical power system from impeding on our natural rights. Patrick Henry was concerned about a lot of things. We could go back to the January 6th cases, or how about the judge that signed off on the Mar-a-Lago warrant for the raid last month or a couple months ago. And here's another quote from Patrick Henry. Power is the great evil with which we are contending. We have divided power between three branches of government. If you're not American, you watch this: executive, legislative, judicial. We have the divided power between three branches of government and erected checks and balances to prevent abuse of power. However, where is the check on the power of the judiciary? If we fail to check the power of the judiciary, I predict that we will eventually live under judicial tyranny. So you look at these January 6 cases, what these judges are ruling on merit. They're targeting people specifically for speaking out against what's happening to them or others, for simply using their First Amendment that has been a part of this country for 200 years. And giving out these wild sentences that does not fit the crime, which it wasn't a crime. They're targeting natural rights that we have endowed by our Creator. And you go back to the Mar-a-Lago raid. The warrant wasn't lawful, like it or not. You can say what you want. Some crazy buffoon, fascist commies out there, or just some sort of anti-republic, just an authoritarian, whatever you want to call yourself. We have a system in how we work our Constitution and how these judges are ruling on these political cases and matters that are worked around the Constitution. I mean, these judges think they have so much power because of how they interpret. The Constitution is black and white. We need to get back to that, not this, oh, well, I swing this way politically, so I like it this way, when in reality it's not constitutional. Second Amendment cases, or the Roe versus Wade back in the 70s, there's nowhere in the Constitution where it says you have the right to murder someone, and you have the right, when you have a baby in the womb, that is murder. If I drive and I purposely hit a car, or an accident, it could go two different ways, and I kill a woman who's pregnant, if it was intentional, you're going to get double homicide. If it wasn't intentional, you're going to get 2 counts of vehicular homicide. So why is it when abortion's happening, it isn't the same standards? That's kind of twisted. But also in the Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness, life, and liberty. The Constitution brings out life. We're supposed to protect life and the individual. The baby is an individual living in this country. But, that's a different topic of the day. My main focus is the Anti-Federalist and what we're seeing with this growing federal government using entities like the FBI, ATF, politicians, and these black bloc groups, and coming after American citizens, going after people going to the school boards. What about, yeah, there you go. It's getting so insane now of how Biden, threatened mega Republicans and Trump supporters and whatnot, whatever you want to call us. Then you had that dude in North Dakota just take his vehicle and just slaughtered a 18-year-old boy because he was an extremist. But there's no evidence of saying he was violent or being. It's just ridiculous. And he gets posted a $50,000 bail and only has to pay 10% of that, while there's people on January 6th sitting in a jail for just simply trespassing or parading with no bail, or getting a longer sentence, or actually sat in jail for months before they got convicted of one of those two charges if they pled. And that guy was not even in there for a day. Or the whole Kyle Rittenhouse when he had a $2 million bond. This is what the Anti-Federalists warned us about. A overpowering, growing federal government. And they warned us about democracy. We're not a democracy. It's simple as that. Democracy, it's ruled by the majority. And when they all take power, that's what happens. And that's what the Founding Fathers did not want. Liberty in this country, it's not, when people say it's about freedom, no, this country was never founded on freedom. Freedom is not the right term. It is liberty. You have immoral freedom or moral liberty. It is the essential of this country is God-given liberty, and the liberty for our pursuit of happiness, life, and property. Right here, another verse from Patrick Henry. Guard with the jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are inevitably ruined. They were warning us. We have been warned. We have gotten complacent. We have taken God out of this country. And evil spiritual entities and the devil and antichrist movements are suffocating us and taking the founding principle of this nation to the gutter. But we're going to change that. And we're seeing all over the world, Italy, Sweden, the presidents or prime ministers they're electing, all these new governors and state legislators running, Kerry Lake, Blake Masters, whoever's running in other states, your Ron DeSantis. I pay attention, but I don't know. I'm focusing a lot on Arizona, so I know the names out there in other states. But, Kerry Lake, for example, people are waking up and seeing what is happening in our states, our communities, in this nation. And it's changing, and we're going to make a change. Taking back the local communities, our school boards, better education for our kids, promote God back in our society, bring harmony and liberty back in this nation. All right, here's another one. Show me the age and country where rights and liberties of the people were placed on the sole chance of the rulers being good men without consequent of loss of liberty. I think I already read you that one. I pretty much already. Yeah, so I just repeat it again. We're depending on the government for liberties when it was never supposed to be that way. As soon as we went that route, I'm not saying I did and us over here, but the government doesn't promote your liberties. It was never intended to do that. we're supposed to protect our liberties and put people in office that we know will not violate those liberties. So, I mean, in reality, the Anti-Federalists were right. You read the Brutus journals written to New York citizens, worried about an overpowering government, by forming one union of states. I like the union, the union of states, forming one national nation, and together we're strong. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's the fact of the centralized of Washington, D.C. and how much power they have gotten and were gave, and no restrictions, and they just want to continue to do that with all this overspending and sending money overseas, letting our cities fall apart, targeting religious people from opposite sides of the political spectrum because he doesn't align with us. No, he's a right-wing extremist. He's a fascist. When it's funny how they call MAGA people fascists, and when you actually talk to someone who is conservative, I'm not a conservative. I'm a radical libertarian, but I love nationalism, the American nationalism, and Christianity. My libertarian views are more on the natural rights of principle, liberty by God. There's a difference. I'm not one of these progressive libertarians, but a lot of these people that call us fascists and whatnot, they don't even know what the term actually is. We don't support socialism because when you study fascism, Mussolini studied Marx and socialism, and he didn't like a lot of it, and he took the good of socialism in his own theory and created it as a nationalistic fascism, which is just socialism in a different matter. So one, we don't support socialism. Conservatives definitely don't support authoritarianism and socialism and all this whatnot. But when you reverse it and you look at the people saying we're fascists and you see what they support, what they want done with the government and these corporations, like, oh, that's pretty fascistic of you. So, I think it's who of people to read the Anti-Federalists and what they were worried about. Liberties being destructed, a centralized, powerful government, and keeping the government in check, which we can do that. We have the abilities in our Constitution and a Bill of Rights to put a government in check, but it's going to take massive amounts of protesting, reform, impeachments, and removing people from office, electing new leaders, I guess, if you want to call a politician a leader. It's going to take a lot of work, and it starts off at the local level, which it's happening all over the country. We're seeing small little offices in counties, cities, towns becoming more back to the America we were supposed to be in, Christian, natural rights, protecting our kids, and protecting our liberties, and keeping the federal government from overpowering us and to dictate everything. American people were waking up. And, here's the last quote I have from him. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. That's what's wild, me being a political science and philosophy major and studying to be a professor. A lot of what we study does come from the past. And you look at the past like, whoa, this is how it led up to this. This is why this regime took over. This is why this happened there. And you look at things now, it's like, whoa, what's going on here? This has happened before. We can't have this happen. You learn by the past, and you can't judge the future until you fix and prevent what's going to happen. It can be done. The Anti-Federalists were very skeptical, and in today's standards, they were 100% correct about this government getting all the power it has now. At first, it wasn't that way. Because of our constitutional system, it's taking time. And I would say it began around when Woodrow Wilson took presidency back in the early 20th century with the executive orders and public policies, and it just kept carrying on and carrying on. Our generation in the 21st century is really feeling the wrath of that. And we could fix that. It's getting the right people in and taking our country back. If you want to read the Anti-Federalist, just the Brutish Journals, Patrick Henry, Robert Yates, Malakin Smith, Samuel Adams, Bill Clinton, the first governor of New York back in the 1700s. If it wasn't for them, there would be no Bill of Rights. It was because of the Anti-Federalists we had Bill of Rights. And if it wasn't for Patrick Henry, we definitely wouldn't have had a Bill of Rights. And the Christian aspect of our nation would not be here today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm just ranting and getting back into work now. And it's election season. We're going to get Carrie Lake in office and continue to go to church, pray, and ask for forgiveness and love each other. That's it.